Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Rush Hour Talk. This is Pete,
This is Ray.
and today we have a very, very, very special guest for you. This is one of our brothers, LA native, born and raised in Echo Park, Esquire of UCLA, a legend amongst car enthusiasts, the bearded one, my best friend, my best man, and our brother, undoubtedly, Ulysses. What's up, Yuli? How you been, man?
What's up, brothers? Thanks for having me on today. You're making me blush with all those fine introductions. So
Welcome.
it's not the beer, I swear.
It's because we haven't gotten into the show yet. Don't worry, bro. No, but I mean, this show is actually probably one of the very, very special show for Ray and I. I mean, between the two of you guys, for me, I can't imagine a set of brothers that I've gone through more with than the two of you guys. So it's definitely a treat for me. Thank you guys for enduring me all these years, but we're still here. So
We survived.
Yep.
Now we have a podcast.
come a long way. So before we get started, I want to tell a little bit about Yuli to start. I myself have known him since I believe maybe sixth grade, so maybe 1995, 96 or something like that. And then we've gone through schools together, jobs together, partied together. Pretty much, I can't think of anything that we didn't do together as kids for the most part.
I remember when he had his Samson hair. That's on the bottom.
No, it's just on the bottom.
Tell us honestly, Yuli, why'd you cut that Samson hair?
You know what? First of all, I had that hair
Hmm.
for a couple of reasons. One, my old man had it, right? And you're a kid, you look up to your old man. He had the long hair, fucking riding a Harley with the leather vest on, badass shit. It didn't quite work out the same for me though. But for a good thing is, I was also into grunge rock music at the time.
Yeah.
Going through that phase. So, so the hair came with the territory. You know what I mean? And I appreciated it. I took care of it. To me, it was just a phase, and I was gonna roll with it. You know what I mean? And I loved it for what it was, and when I had it.
I specifically, you remember getting into
Of course.
some pretty well-known fights in high school. Did your hair get pulled during any of the fights?
It might have. I vaguely remember waking up to some bald spots the next day after some of those incidents. But the good thing about having long hair is you can just
Comb it over.
comb that shit over.
I will.
I became the lord of the comb over.
I do remember you winning all those fights. So congratulations.
You got a loose definition of winning, but I appreciate that.
How's your family? I haven't seen them in a while, obviously, for obvious reasons like COVID and so on and so forth. But how's everything with the family?
Family's good, man. I'm blessed that my family has come through this whole COVID-19 situation unscathed so far. My parents who are part of the that age group that's at risk, I've just been keeping a really close eye on them, and I've been able to do my part to make sure that they don't get sick. Even all my younger nephews and nieces, everybody's been good. No one's caught it. Everyone's in good spirits. As good spirits as can be, I guess, given the whole situation. And we just got a new addition to the family, brand new little Aguayo.
Congrats.
Congrats on being a great uncle then in this case? Is that what it is?
Yeah, a grand uncle. I think it's a grand uncle, or yeah, I think so, like a grandpa, but grand uncle.
But on top of that,
Yeah.
congratulations to our sister Elaine, as she just got engaged to an awesome dude. So congrats to her as well, and another new addition to the family. And who would have thought that in the middle of all this, you'd be adding family left and right?
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't know if you remember how you met Yuli, Raymond, but I remember how I met Yuli. I remember him as a hot-headed kid. Didn't really take any crap. He swears that I was giving him BS, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't. I thought I was just doing pretty well on the basketball court, but I forgot. What did you throw the ball at me, or did I throw the ball at you? I'm a little fuzzy on that.
I'm pretty sure you threw the ball. I mean, right in the fucking nose. You know what? My nose is still a little bit crooked. It might be from that, as a matter of fact. But you threw the ball. I remember that.
I don't know, man. You must have been doing something, man.
from there it was the dance of the dragons, man.
I mean, I don't know if it was dragons, and probably more like little piglets just kind of rolling around. But either way, in the I
Exactly.
guess what in the fall of '95 or '96 or something like that, I met Yuli. But Ray, do you remember how you met Yuli? Because I know when you met him, he had all his hair and his pimp ass rides and everything.
Honestly, I don't remember when I met him, but like my first memory of him is seeing him in the hallway with his long hair, and I didn't understand it. That's what. I know we had some classes together, uh, and we just got started talking. I know he was all part of the Echo Park crew, so we were all part of that, Bapa Belmont academy we're in. So that's how we became friends that way.
What a weird time.
Yeah, I don't quite remember my first memory either. It was a little different because we would see each other a lot at Belmont, so there was no real like introduction at that point. It was just kind of like we knew each other anyway, and then
wasn't it weird when we went from King Middle School and then we got to Belmont, and it was pretty much not too many people from King was at Belmont except for like a few of us. It was weird, right?
It was just you two and Kat, right?
No, I mean Ken.
Oh, Ken, yep.
Yeah, I mean, me, Pete, Jim, Ken, Kat, Emo. Yeah, there. I mean, other than that, though, there weren't anybody that we really gave a shit about. That I mean, like, sorry if I didn't name you. I mean, I do give a shit about everybody, but you know what I mean. Like, they're just there weren't as many people that I remember from King that followed us to Belmont, and I think the reasons for that became apparent later on in our high school years when we realized maybe the educational incentives for going to Marshall and the advantages and all that stuff. But we didn't make that decision. Like we were gonna go to our home school, and that's what we did.
A couple of days ago because I went to Virgil, I didn't go to King with you guys. I had a counselor who was actually pretty good. And she was trying to do her best to get me to go to Fairfax. And and I didn't really understand fully why. I knew it was a better school. And my only reasoning for wanting to go to Fairfax was like, oh man, they're a Nike school. They get, they have a really good basketball team. But it wasn't until later on you realize just how shitty of a school Belmont was compared to a school like Fairfax. And she was trying to do everything in her power to get me to go to that school. Unfortunately, I didn't live in that zip code, and we didn't have any friends there. And but it all turned out for the best. And if I would have gone to Fairfax, this podcast wouldn't be here right now.
It wasn't necessarily always the best option to end up at Belmont, but with that being said, though, I don't think I would have wanted to end up anywhere else outside of that.
Yeah, it shaped us.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It was a big part of who we are today.
It felt like a prison almost, right? Like you walk in and, the windows are skinny. There's bars everywhere, gates everywhere. I mean, I think in our senior year, they finally added metal detectors. I don't know why it wasn't there before. We had we had lockdowns left and right because of, and it wasn't, the typical American lockdowns because of shootings. Now it was just kind of like gang things, individual beefs and stuff like that. So you never felt scared.
Hey, Pete and Yuli, we did actually have a legit lockdown where we were stuck in class all day. You remember that? We couldn't leave the classroom. We had to piss in trash cans, and there were actual I remember I did something I was supposed to. I peeked outside, and there was actual LAPD SWAT walking around. There was I think a shooting in the neighborhood.
Yeah. In the parking
garage. And I remember the LA Times next day. There were signs that kids that wrote we're hungry or something like that. Yeah. That was
at least you guys, I don't know about Yuli, were you in school that day?
You know what? I was actually late to first period that day, thankfully. And I got turned away when I got to the parking garage. And I don't know why the fuck why
you got rewarded
but
for
I'm
being
cool with it,
party.
Right? And then and then I go home and it's it's all over TV. The next day it's all over newspapers. I'm hearing from you guys about what happened and all that. Crazy times, man.
Do you guys remember any of the gangs?
Oh yeah.
Do you guys have any interactions with them?
My cousins were a big part of all of that. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna mention any names or anything like that, but that was their scene, and so like anytime family got involved with any sort of
Mm,
altercation or
hmm.
situation, it was always on my radar. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't matter if I'm affiliated or not. If it's to the extent that something's going on with my cousin and I see my cousin in school, I'll get his back. I don't give a shit, and that doesn't make me a part of his team per se, but it's my family right there. You know what I mean? And so I heard all the stories because of that. I heard all the stories of all the drama that was going on between different hoods, and that was a big part of why Belmont was as bad as it was, because it was right dead center
Yeah.
of a bunch of different neighborhoods. You put one school right in the middle of a bunch of different borders for 18th Street, C14,
Echo Park.
Crazies, Big Top, and all Diamond Street, Echo Park, and all these different neighborhoods. One
Yep.
school right in the middle of it. And then you make it so that way, all the poor kids got to go there. What the fuck do you think's going to
Yep.
happen? You know what I mean?
Our senior class was huge.
Yep.
I can't remember what number it was. It was
Well, here's a fun fact for you guys. Belmont is the most crowded school per capita, meaning per like square feet, west of the Mississippi.
geez.
It's the most, yeah, west of the Mississippi,
Wow.
or at least it was for maybe at least when I last looked it up or heard about it, which was like 10 years ago.
Wow. I got a gang
Yeah.
story for you guys. I was fortunate that I was taller than most kids that around that time, and I played ball, so I didn't really get involved with that stuff. But I remember one day leaving school. I left school, and this sort of didn't happen around Belmont, but I left Belmont to go to my old school to go play ball, and on my way there, I got stopped by these three game bangers, and they're like, "Hey, I said, where you from, fool?" I'm like, Ghana. They're like, okay, homie.
Like, okay, good luck.
Yeah. It would have got a different way if I would have thrown a different name out there, but
That that's one way. I mean, well, I've actually been there a lot of times when actually Yuli got hit up. I mean, by his own local gangs and everything too. It was crazy, right, Yuli?
Shit, like I was hit up so many times I can't even remember. I can't pinpoint any one of them. But yeah, I think I can count the amount of times that I've had a gun pointed to my head though, and that's
yeah,
about three different times. And that's, man, that's really humbling when you're just staring
yeah.
down the barrel of a gun. But yeah, thankfully it doesn't happen so much anymore.
I remember one of those times. I think I might have been with you, and that's the same kid.
I do remember
Yep.
that time. We were in the car in my area,
Down the avenue.
and yeah, I had a couple of
Mhm.
different altercations with that kid, and all I can do is hope he's still
Yeah.
around. You know what I mean?
How is it now compared to the way we grew up in it?
It's nothing like it was
Yeah.
when we grew up in it. Completely different ends of the
Yeah.
spectrum now. You know what I mean? I mean, really, it boils down to that big G word, gentrification. Um, yeah, there it is. I'll say it. You know what I mean? I'm passionate about that. My family set up
Wow.
roots
Mhm.
here in Echo Park in the '50s, and for even from the '50s all the way to about
Mhm.
the mid '90s, Echo Park had culture. You know what I mean? It was a place
Mhm.
that cultivated culture from all areas of background.
Mhm.
It didn't matter where you were from. Um, and people of color walk the streets freely. I mean, other than getting hit up by their own
Yeah.
people, we were
That's right.
self-regulating. You know what I mean? And something happened, and I can't put my finger on exactly what it was that caused all of these people with money to start moving over here. It's like all of a sudden someone lifted up a rock and saw how amazing Echo Park was. It's like we're 5 to 10 minutes from downtown LA, from
Yep.
the city center. Yet it's still got a almost like a suburban feel to it. Housing was cheap because it was all owned by people of color. And then all of a sudden you just have this mass influx of people with money. And you know, I don't want to just say it was all white people, but it's been predominantly a white driven force of gentrification. And you know, there's pros and cons to everything. You know what I mean?
What type of people, for the most part, have it attracted? I know, and I'm not talking about ethnically, but like what demographic of people do you feel have poured in over the last 10, 15, 20 years?
If I had to do it, I'd you know, we started early on calling them, you know, hipsters and all that shit. And really, you know, I think that term's taken a bunch of
Hmm.
different definitions over the years. Early on, I think you know, when the gentrification was initially happening, you know, it was descriptive of people that came here with different
Hmm.
ideologies as us. Oftentimes, bringing in like the type of mindset that they were just going to make everything the way it used to be for them, wherever they were coming from. You know, whether it was the Chicago art scene or you know, like the New York Soho mentality type
Hmm.
shit, and they were trying to bring it here, and it just felt like, you know, what are we not good enough? Are we too different? You know, are we not cool? Because it seemed like they wanted to sort of transplant everything that they were coming along with into Echo Park and make it
Yeah.
into something that was comfortable to them. And I think early on, you know, like, you know, they're all called hipsters because you know, they had a certain style that ironically they're trying to be counterculture, and they're trying to be counter everything, but they all ended up kind of being the same in my opinion. And so they kind of all fell under that umbrella of you know, what people call the hipster. Nowadays it's like, I don't know what the hell you call them. You know what I mean? I mean, they're I don't want to dehumanize them by saying, you know, it's us versus them and they're different from me, but we are, you know, we certainly
Yeah.
100% are not the same. I am not
Yeah.
like them and they're not like me, and they know that just as well as everybody else. You know, and I still feel that because, you know, I could be here in my own town, my own neighborhood, and drive down the street and get looks from uh from people
Wow.
who
Yeah.
look at me like I don't belong now. And I have no name for these people anymore. You know,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
just transplants to me now. They're not original. They're not originally from here. And but now they are
Yeah.
the loudest voice here, the highest numbers here, and you know, they make things happen here a lot more than people like me do, for example,
Yeah.
because I'm in the minority now.
And you know, we've
So
seen quite a few of our friends actually essentially get moved out of here because of one reason or another, but primarily because they couldn't afford to live here anymore, and literally entire families had to, you know, up and leave their homes that they've been in ever since they were born, which was heartbreaking. And obviously, we know the, you know, the friends that we have, our brothers that you know who we're talking about. And that was really, really hard, and I couldn't really understand it. And I don't, you know, I don't blame anybody for making an extra buck, selling the property, making some money for their family, and so on and so forth. But I think what's like, to your point, what's gotten really lost, um, is that there was this culture of community, as dysfunctional as it may have been, to now it's just a scene to be in. You know what I mean? It's a scene to be in. You know, there's coffee shops pretty much every other store. There's art studios, and it may be good for the community, but I think a very little bit of the culture of that community, the sense of community that we had before, is even still there. And I don't even know how many of the people that used to be there are still there outside of our families.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if you guys agree with that, but that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
100% accurate as hell.
Because like Yuli said earlier, there are pros and cons to gentrification, and I think money coming into a community, you know, generally is good, but it's how it comes into the community. It has to be done in a way where the people that live there don't get pushed out. The people that live there need to benefit from the rise of that community. So, how would you, you know, if you um, were able to see the gentrification coming to Echo Park, how would you have changed it for the better versus how you guys feel about it now?
Well, I'll tell you, if I would have seen this coming, and you know, I was old enough to sort of have a voice that people would listen to, I'd tell people don't sell
Yeah.
their homes, man. You know what I mean? Don't sell your homes because that's the quickest way to give them the advantage over people that were
Hmm.
already here and that plan to stay here. You know what I mean? And it's like, you don't necessarily got to be savvy. You don't have to be a real estate expert to know that a house is always going to be an asset that you can keep for your whole life. But oftentimes it's like, you had, again, it goes back to the whole inner city education thing. We had people of color, my parents included, who probably didn't know any better. We got lucky, we kept our property, but others, in this neighborhood, they
Hmm.
saw dollar signs skyrocketing, and it was very short sighted, in my opinion, to see that money and say, we can take this and go buy a bigger house somewhere else, where we don't gotta deal with some of the struggles of inner city LA. I think they could have made
Yeah,
that same decision and kept their homes,
yeah,
and they would have had a lot more control over their community still, for their children and their grandchildren and future generations. You know what I mean? They would have had control over who gets priced out. They would have had control over cultural aspects of the community that come and go,
yeah,
because they would have still been
yeah,
stakeholders here in Echo Park. You know what I'm saying? But because they're not,
yeah,
everything got uprooted. Along with when those homes sold and those
yeah.
people left, culture left with them. And it all got replaced by the coffee shop, the fucking Starbucks, and the,
Hmm.
the American apple pie perspective. And it just it's not the same anymore, man. But that would have been one way I would have said, hold your ground if you want to be included in this transformation that Echo Park is going to undergo. Keep
Yeah.
that property. You know what I mean? Rent it out or something like that.
'Cause anytime I see it coming or hear about it, it's all the positives. It's the community's going to get uplifted. You're going to lower crime, but oftentimes, the people who were there get booted out, and it's like, I'm waiting for a gentrification story that has a happy ending for the original people that live there. you know, I haven't heard that yet, and I again, I think there's a lot of benefits to gentrification, but it's just oftentimes people get fucked over. It hasn't been done right yet.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. I haven't really seen any
Yeah,
gentrification process that was actually successful for the immediate locals at the
yeah,
time. And like Yuli said, taking what we know now and looking back and saying if our voice mattered enough. I think a lot of the efforts, anyway, in my opinion, I would have put in would be whatever money comes in, you reinvest back into the community itself, as opposed to, if you're going to develop something, right, you redevelop something that's already there, that's a staple. You don't just uproot it and take it out, and then that's just the
yeah,
beginning of the end for the most part.
yeah,
But that's what everybody's trying to bring. They're trying to bring New York here. They're probably trying to bring Chicago here. I mean, they're trying to bring what Portland and Seattle life here, or whatever it is that suits them, right? And that, to me, I feel like there's a place and time, or there's a place for everything like that. But I feel like, LA, even going back to, I mean, starting in like even Silver Lake, you kind of saw the early phases of it coming, and then it just kind of, as that grew, it just kind of crept into Echo Park naturally
hmm,
as the next logical move for people. But I think the problem was they saw dollar signs, and that's what drove them to make certain decisions, as opposed to you know putting in the work to try to redevelop something, which we're seeing a little more now, because now we've learned and we're seeing the effects of certain things. I'm glad to see some restaurants are still
yeah,
holding their ground, like Happy Tom's is a staple there, um, and just various other places there that we grew up with. But it's not just Echo Park. I mean, like it's Rampart, it's
oh
Koreatown,
yeah,
it's all those areas around there. It's changed, and we have friends who are transplants, and we don't have any hate for transplants. I'm personally just sad to see
Mhm.
that the city doesn't really look or feel like the city the three of us grew up in.
hmm,
And it's sad. And Ray, our the first place that we got a job in high school, that Bank of
it's
America, you
gone.
remember that? They demolished it, and I was like, I didn't like working there or anything like that, but I mean, it was just like they demolished it, and you know what's coming? Condos, condos, condos.
Yeah, we're
It's
currently
it's
seeing
been
that
sad.
happen right now, in South LA around the new football stadium. Um, I think some of the locals are smarter and holding out, but I think the same thing is going to happen.
Absolutely. And that's, in my opinion, that's the main problem with gentrification, is that there's no way that it happens um,
Yeah,
while concurrently being conclusive.
yeah,
It isn't inclusive. Excuse me. It doesn't come here and make things better for
yeah.
everybody. It comes here and it
Yeah.
replaces what's already been, and you know, oftentimes it drives people away.
Like, what makes it worse is it gets presented as it made things good for everybody. It's false.
Oh yeah, yeah. Made things good for the
Yeah,
transplants that brought it here to begin with.
Well,
You know
the
what I
numbers
mean?
they look at are always
Um,
financial numbers, right? And so, I
yeah,
guess in America, if you're making money, it's a good thing, no matter what happens.
but they're looking at the wrong financial numbers. They're not looking
yeah.
at the financial numbers of the people who were poor. They're not seeing their dollar signs, their numbers go up. It's like the people who already have money, they're making more money instead of the people who are poor, becoming middle income. So
The other things that I do want to talk about, leaving high school, did you have any idea where you were going to end up?
Not in the slightest. I had no clue what life had in store for me, and I was okay with that. You know what I mean? The one mistake I didn't want to make was to force myself down a path that I would not be happy with at the end of the day. So I told myself, you know, I'm gonna let my life unfold the way it does naturally. I'm gonna make my decisions, and hopefully I make good ones, and we'll see
Mhm.
where this life takes me.
And a little background about what it was like for at least Yuli and I to at least the first year after high school. After we graduated, somehow we graduated with honors in some sense, though. But with that being said, um, we actually decided that, hey, you know what? Maybe we should just kind of go out on our own, get a place of our own, and go to school. Maybe not go to school. Who knows? But do you do you remember that little studio apartment that you and I got in Pomona of all places? Thinking, oh man, we made it. We're on our own, and only to come to find that we were going home pretty much most of the week, probably most of the weekend, just because the number one reason we didn't have any food. And we were eating,
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
making
I
food
do remember that.
like rice with soy sauce. We would get like Kraft mac and cheese, ramen. It was, and it
Yeah.
wasn't because, um, it wasn't because we wanted to eat that, although we did at that time, but literally because that was all we could afford. We didn't have any actual jobs. We had to go begging our men's for well, not begging, but like we had to just tuck our tails
Yeah.
between our legs and be like, I think we actually need a job because we're not doing so well. But so that's a little background on what our first year felt like. It was a hurricane. It was a riot. I don't even know how we stayed at that place for 9 months with whatever we were making and trying not to ask our parents for help or ask them for the money that they didn't have. But do you remember those times, Julie?
I remember, we took some classes out there in Pomona. We lived out there in Pomona. We fucking we ate. I mean, I ate a lot. I felt like I was eating a lot still. I mean, your mom was always supplying us with the bomb ass food. I still remember that. The rice and the Chinese sausage and shit. But yeah, there it was a lot of driving back and forth, a lot of figuring out what it was we were doing with our lives. Um, you know, coming to a heat with the fact that sort of we're kind of
Yeah.
running in place out there. You know what I mean? But trying to figure it out, and in that sense, we were making progress. We may not have gotten much done when we were out there, but what we did accomplish
mm,
was that we wanted to do
yeah,
something rather than just stay there running in place. And I think for me at least that was huge. You know what I mean? Because some people can get stuck, kind of just living in that type of situation, making just enough money to support themselves like that, and they can
Yeah.
stay there their whole lives. I think what we learned from that situation was that we were not
yeah,
okay with that for the rest of our lives. We were surviving, no doubt. We were together, no doubt, keeping each other afloat, keeping each other positive.
mm,
Um,
Yeah.
but we needed more. And I think that's what we learned from that situation. Really, that's what I took away from it.
We were still all in each other's lives. I remember, Ray, I think you were going to your college, your university, and we're and actually we were still hanging out and partying
Yeah,
with each other. But what I remember, very clearly was, um, of all the people that that we knew, I think you and I were the only ones where we were like, yeah, we're actually not going to school. We actually kind of took a year off essentially to try to figure things out. And I mean, thank God for uh, for Dan and all his generosity for sure and guidance and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But even especially with you, Ray. I mean, like I think seeing how you actually were still going to school, Ray. We were like, well, one of our brothers is still doing his thing. It's like there's no way that we could just kind of end up here, just because we don't feel like it, we don't feel like we fit in or we're capable. But it took a lot of all of us just kind of pushing each other,
yeah.
just sticking together.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah,
So you guys both got into Cal Poly Pomona. That's why you guys went to Pomona, right? Or is it
we
Mount
we
Sac?
went to Mount Sac out there
So
in Pomona, which was in
oh,
Pomona. Yeah,
I guess so. You guys did apply to 84-year colleges after high school. I know you guys
Oh,
were.
no, no. So we got into four-year colleges, but we thought it was a great idea to go off on our own and just kind of, for lack of a better word, just kind of dick around and overestimate our abilities to do anything. And then we just
yeah.
decided, you know what, let's just start our lives right now. Little did we know we had nothing to work with.
And that was also at the advice of one of our greatest mentors, Dan Storman.
To go
That
to
if
Mount
we
Sac.
no, that if we didn't know what we wanted to do with ourselves, not to force ourselves into a 4-year university at the time. And I'll never forget him telling us, um, you know, if school is not currently for you, or if it's something that you're not sure about at this time,
Yeah,
go back at a later time when you figure it out. And I came to see what he meant with that advice, because you see people that that go to 4 years immediately right out the gate, and maybe they're not ready for it, or they take it for granted because they're not at the proper state of mind yet. You know what I mean? They go there and they kind of just party their first 2 years and fuck up their GPA, and then they got an uphill battle the next 2 years to be able to graduate with some sort of decent diploma. And sometimes
mm,
someone might flunk out, something like that. I'll tell you
mm,
firsthand, I
yeah.
was not ready to go to any 4 year, and that's why I say that's what I learned during that whole experience. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but at the time, I was sure as fuck that I didn't want to go back to school. And so Dan told us, like, don't go to school if you don't want to do it right now, because you're gonna blow that money
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to go fuck up.
I actually wish I would have heard something like that. For
Yeah.
me, I went to CSUN, and like those fear built into that. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and coming out of Belmont, like a lot of people, don't end up at 4-year universities. A lot of Belmont students don't even go to junior colleges, and being the African kid, first one from my family, there was this fear of, oh shit, I got to go to a college no matter what, even if I wasn't ready or not. And I would say, like, the first 2 years, I was in the same boat as you guys. I wasn't ready because I was working full time and go to school full time. That shouldn't have ever have happened. I should have, you know, taken the time to really focus on school. Fortunately, I made it out, graduated, but I know that if, I could have gone back, I definitely could have done better, so I'm glad you guys definitely got that advice.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Yuli, but like, do you feel the next phase of your life started at that moment that you're talking about?
I feel like
Mm,
the advice that we had been given um, meant something at that point, and the light bulb went on for me, and it was time for me to start
mm,
actively pursuing
Mm-hmm.
a path. You're presented with various options, and by options I mean I literally could have chosen to do whatever it was that I wanted to do at that point because I was still young with a fresh mind. Um, and I decided my path was going to be generally to pursue
Mm-hmm.
higher education. And again, even at that point, I still had no
Yeah.
idea what I wanted to do. I wanted to go back. I just wanted to go back and try various studies and see what sort of, what tickled my fancy. I didn't know whether that was going to be science. I didn't know if it was going to be, math, law. I had no idea what the fuck it was going to be, but I knew I wanted to go back to school.
At least from my own experience, I think you literally could have gone any way you wanted. And people don't know this about you. It doesn't get talked about that much, but Yuli is a smart motherfucker, right? He was on our school wasn't that crazy or great for education, but we had a lot of brilliant people on the decathlon team, and Yuli was definitely one of them. I don't know if people know that about Yuli, but he was a fucking nerd, man. He was a nerd from day one, so it was just a matter of him deciding what he wanted to do for the most part.
I didn't know that. As soon as you said that, my thought was, you fucking nerd. I was thinking that right as you said it.
I told you, Yuli, that I just
Yep.
wanted to get all the good shit out of the way first in the beginning, and then I'm coming for you, bro.
Yeah, I remember those days. The academic decathlon. That was one thing that Belmont was actually pretty damn good at.
But we got a chance to kind of rewrite our lives, start fresh under the guidance of the legendary Dan Stromer. If you guys don't know who that is, Google him. Just Google him. That's all I got to say.
He's a beast.
And for those of you who were actually at my wedding, he was actually the officiant. Do you remember that? I was just taken away. I can't believe he was like, yeah, let's do it. But we started a new life, and I got to see you kind of, really discover yourself when we were, again, roommates in Pasadena. And there was no way you were going to fail. And then next thing you know, Pasadena experience aside, you're at UCLA.
Wait a minute.
Oh man, I knew Ray wasn't gonna let that slip. Go on, brother. What's up, Ray? Oh man, I was hoping we were gonna just jump that.
No, what? I need someone to explain that trampoline for me. Because you're up here saying that Dan gave you all this great advice. You're gonna do big things, and someone gets a trampoline. That could have been the end of one of you guys' lives. So, like, what was the idea? Listen. Like, somebody's playing that trampoline in front of the house.
Before Yuli explains that, I do want to let you know that Dan is full of good advices, but not being crazy is not one of them. He is a crazy motherfucker, and I'm sorry, Dan, for calling you that, but you are insane.
Dan would have approved.
He's something else, and I'm not. I'll say that for a different show. But Ray, you asked about the trampoline. Yuli, I don't know if you remember where the trampoline came from, but I do. I think
you're gonna have to lay that foundation for me, bro. I don't remember where it came from. I do remember some other things, but I don't remember where that.
For those of you that don't know
trampoline
what the
came
heck we're talking about, I didn't live with these guys around in during the past few days, they call it, but
you might as well have been there every week.
It's true, but it was the only house on the block that had a trampoline on the front yard. And I was at that house every weekend, and one weekend it was there. I used it once or twice, and I almost hurt myself. I said, "Fuck that!" Now, Peter, can somebody please tell us how you came to that trampoline?
All right, so we were serious about our academics and getting our shit together, but we were also really serious about partying. And a lot of times I was like, you know what? I feel like I could find a reason every week to throw a fucking party. I mean, I don't know. I've never lived in my own house before, where all my friends. And so Yuli and I were like, you know what? I know if we threw a party, our brothers like Ray and all our other homies, they're gonna roll up and it's gonna be a party. And that's what happened. And those parties got so big and legendary to the point, again, we had a trampoline in the front. Cops would stop by not to tell us to stop partying, but just to see what's going on, what's up this Friday night. And they would actually just kick it there. And then they're like, hey, guys, just be careful on the trampoline. Don't get hurt. And so long as we told our neighbors that we're going to have a party, which was pretty frequent, there was going to be a party and no complaints. But where the trampoline came in, and that shit was deadly, Ray. I don't even know. I think one of our other roommates, I mean, we went through a few roommates, but I think one of our other roommates came. He rose up with a trampoline and he's like, "Hey, you think we should use it for a party?" I was like, "With drunk people?" I was like, "Of course we should use it for a fucking party." I was like, "Come
Fuck
on, man."
yeah. How can you even ask such a stupid question?
This might be just kind of a hearsay, but from what I understand, there were kind of a couple of there was like a movie out there that was influenced by our parties and stuff. And I'm not saying that directly or if that's true or not. I've just kind of heard people talk about that. But in any case, Ray, you're crazy for getting on that trampoline. I don't know why I did it, and I don't know why anybody would ever do it. But I mean that was
Hey,
that
man,
was just the
I
case.
got it because I wanted to jump as high as Michael Jordan. All right. those Gatorade commercials got you, man. I want to be.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Oh
Jump
man.
man.
I don't think there was many parties that Ray wasn't at. I think we had your 21st birthday party there, right?
Usually, I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't drink at all until I was 21. So my first time being fucking
I
shit
remember
faced
that.
was at was at your house.
I remember that. And I remember what you were drinking too, Ray, but I won't
Hypnotic.
put you on blast unless you do that yourself.
I wasn't drinking Hypnotic.
No, it wasn't that classy, bro. It wasn't that classy. There's pictures.
What was I drinking?
Hey,
Pete, you know what he was drinking.
I'm not gonna throw
What?
it. I'm pretty
You
sure it
guys
was
remember?
Smirnoff, man.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, bro,
It was
Look,
fucking Smirnoff Ice, bro.
Man, you know, the bullshit in that was like, I feel like as inexperienced drinkers, you're like, why not? It just tastes like Sprite. You know what I mean? It's like nobody likes the taste of alcohol right off the bat,
Yeah.
man. I mean, I don't know unless you start when you're like 5, I guess.
I still remember the classic photo. I think that was at Emily and Sarah's house. Drinking the Smirnoff.
Yeah, that was
all of us are like, totally reference Smirnoff. Does that exist?
Dude, that was my 21st birthday.
The Smirnoff still exist?
I'm sure it exists. It's a good moneymaker, man.
Do you guys drink? You guys remember wine coolers? Boone's Farm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Boone's Farm.
Those things. Does that exist? Do kids drink that nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, they're still college kids. I mean, like they're not everybody has money at that age. I'd imagine it's kind of a necessity. But I do remember one thing about Pasadena. We created this thing. Well, not we created, but we made jungle juice that tore everybody up, and it was made of the cheapest shit, the cheapest vodka, the Gatorade powder and Gatorade and stuff like that. But like it was vodka of the gods, like $9.99 per handle. We would just get like 10 handles of vodkas of the gods and like 15 gallons of Gatorade, and then boom, put it in the tub, and next thing you know, 2 hours into the party, everybody's fucked up.
You guys were pros at making that shit.
Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard. I just gave you the recipe.
Hey man, but you gotta mix.
You were a pro at drinking that shit, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Fuck
man.
Thanks. Do you guys remember that time I stopped the party?
What?
The party stopped for like 30 seconds.
Out of my mind.
I was in the backyard, little Liddy, and having a good time. And I decided to go back inside, and I didn't realize the glass door was closed. And I walked right into it like a fucking pigeon. And everybody inside the party just stopped and looked at me.
Bro, your forehead smudge was on the glass.
That's
my sweat. Yeah.
I remember
Oh my
that.
god. We're like, holy shit, is he okay? Is the glass okay?
Yeah. I walked that thing pretty hard. I think that was some bulletproof glass, so that should have broken.
All right, so now that we got past the Pasadena days, because Ray wouldn't let us skip that part, what was it that you remember most about getting out of UCLA?
Ironically, although UCLA was such a great place to me at that time, and I learned so much from my experience, and I decided what it was I wanted to do with myself while I was there, I fucking hated commuting there. And so, getting out of UCLA for me was just the end of another chapter. and the beginning of what I hope to be really the rest of my adult life. And that's what it actually ended up being for me. And I do have UCLA to thank for I would say big part of where I am today, and you know I'm blessed to have gone through that experience with some of the best professors in the world. Um, you know, teaching me their knowledge, sharing their knowledge with me, putting up with my bullshit. Um, and you know, I was hungry. I was hungry for answers, and I was in the wrong major for that.
What major was that?
So I guess harkening back to our discussion about Pasadena, when I was going to PCC at the time, I you know I took some electives there, you know,
Mhm.
just because why not? I had to, right? And at the time, I'm taking a bunch of general ed classes. So again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And one of the electives I took was a critical
Mhm.
thinking philosophy course. And it was, you know, it was during summer. And I took this class, and two important things happened during this critical thinking class. Um, and I guess just to stay on topic, the first was I finally realized what it was that I wanted to study, and that was philosophy. And I mean, it couldn't have been
Mhm.
more of an eye opener for me. You know, when the professor starts, you know, going over logical reasoning and all these different things, these various philosophers, and just kind of getting our feet wet with some of these various writings, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing! Like this, I can read this shit all day. And you know, like other classmates that are taking the same elective, or you know, to them it's dense as hell, and they can't get beyond a couple of sentences. And I realized at that point, like, this is what I want to study. Again, going back to the whole where is it going to take me? I have
Mhm.
no damn idea, but this is what I want to study. I can enjoy this. I could read as much of it as they throw at me. So that's, you know, that's where I decided I wanted to be a philosophy major. And yeah, just to answer the question, so at UCLA I was a philosophy major, and you know that was completely unintended you know, before I got there, but it just so happened that we had one of the best philosophy departments in the entire world, um, and the chair of the philosophy department was amazing, my favorite professor to date. And so yeah, that's what I ended up majoring in there at UCLA,
What was it
philosophy.
about philosophy that just really got you going?
Sorry, sorry.
I have a very
This is sounded very
my
sexual, Peter. What was the philosophy that got you going?
Well, Yuli, tell me if it's not true, but it really gets you going.
It really does, and it was the first thing that I ever did when it comes to studying. Yeah.
I'm taking it all in. I just, yeah.
Yuli is a very intricate, complicated person, but
I'm a constantly like overanalyzing type of person, very like thinking about everything all the time, analytical, and that could be going on even if I'm not saying anything. You know what I mean? My mind's going a million miles an hour just thinking about shit. So you know, like mathematics was a close second, right? Because you know it's very formulaic, and you get from point A to point B, and you have an answer at the end. But philosophy, you can go down a million different rabbit holes. I can analyze in a million different ways, and so long as my logic was sound, and my you know I move from one point to the next, and it's with sound
yeah.
logic to reach a sound conclusion. I can come up with a bunch of different things, and to me, it
Mhm.
all made sense as I read it. And it was just, it was fantastic. I loved it. It was amazing. It was eye opening to me. You know what I mean? I felt like it was something I can finally read that makes sense for the way that I think.
Hey, Ray, do you see what I'm saying now? I used the right word.
My bad.
I was like, this guy's sick in the fucking head. But go ahead, tell me more. Tell me more. Go ahead.
Exactly. Exactly.
So when you were there at UCLA and you were going through these philosophy courses, was it then that you knew that you wanted to be an attorney?
It was just it was a random friend in a philosophy class that had said that he was going to take
Hmm.
a practice LSAT test. So an LSAT is
Mhm.
the law school admissions test, and UCLA, you know, they had various organizations that would come in and sort of put together like practice LSAT courses And they would do that to try to sell you on their courses, right? They want to give you a baseline to see where you are for people that were interested in law school. And then from there, they would be like, you see, you need a lot of work, so take our course. So I remember in this instance, our friend had mentioned it, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go take the PLSAT that was put on, I think, by Blueprint at the time at UCLA. And I'm like, fuck it, why not? So I went and I took the test, and I surprised myself.
Wow.
Like, I got a pretty damn high score, like in the sense that the score that I got with the PLSAT, without having ever studied for it before or even knowing what it was prior to then, was a score that a lot of people end up applying law schools with. So my baseline was decently high, and I decided at that point that I can actually put what I had been studying and learning to good use if I decided to pursue that. And so I did.
Wow.
That was
so it was that pre-LSAT that kind of turned the tide for you as far as career goes.
It was when I got that score back. I really was shocked myself. Like I didn't go into it thinking that I knew what I was doing at all. I went into it thinking I want to know what my baseline is, and I love philosophy, and I don't know anything else. But when I got that score back, I realized that I can use what I was learning to do something better.
Yeah. One of the other things too, I mean, and obviously having experience at a law firm, working there for years together with Dan. Yeah. Did that have anything to do with your decision, or it was kind of separate and you just so happened to be working at a law firm?
Seeing Dan and everything that he does to help people, everything he did and currently does to help people, that was also a big part of my decision to do so in the end. But working at the law firm, I would say, wasn't so much. It was when I decided to apply myself towards sort of the pre-skills tests, and then considered what my other options are, and thought about how Dan used it to help people and stuff like that. That's when I decided this is what I'm going to do.
I mean, after UCLA, on the advice of Dan, we took a trip for us before we started really getting into things. And do you remember where we went for a long time?
Oh yeah, we went to Paris. I remember that.
We were in England to Paris to the Netherlands, going down to Italy, and then we were in Spain, and then going back to France again, and then so on and so forth. But I think one of the things that I got out of that trip and being with you was that Dan was trying to teach us something. And I think one of the biggest things he was trying to teach us is that, I know how this is going to sound, but you're insignificant.
100%.
Like, you got to get out of your head. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful world out there. And you're not that big of a deal. And not in a malicious way, right? I mean, but the one thing I got from that was, I mean, I don't know if you feel the same, Yuli, but I mean, tell me, what was it that you got out of that trip?
I agree. That was definitely one of the takeaways, because you get there and you realize, American or not, and all the advantages that came with that at that time. We're in their town.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
We're in their part of the world, and they say, when in Rome, live as the Romans. And that's what we did. We did that to survive. We did that to adapt. We did that to learn. And, those were experiences that I think that helped us grow significantly as men at that time, I would say.
So how long were you guys there for?
2 to 3 months.
Yeah, we were there for a while.
Yeah.
We spent a good season over there. I remember, and I remember this very distinctly, because it was his fucking idea.
Yeah.
We would have been fine just chilling in Echo Park after we graduated, but he was like, he's like, you know what? I don't know if he wrote the dice or he knew that we would make it back better, but whether it was intended or not, there were some pretty good results that we got from that trip, and a lot of it was trusting one another. Learning how to adapt in environments that you're unfamiliar with, but also don't speak the language. You had to really figure it out. And then from what I remember from that trip, it wasn't the glitz and glories, because first off, we were broke for the last month and a half. We were broke. We were dead broke. Yeah. Like, we didn't know where we were going to get money. we can't ask our parents. So we had to figure out a way. And what we ended up probably doing was just borrowing some money from some of the friends that we already had to get us through the last month and a half. But all we ate was sandwiches every day. It was like €2 per sandwich, and sometimes we had one sandwich per day. I
Yeah.
came back hella lean. I mean, you remember that? Like we used
Yeah.
to work out and everything too, and we're like, this is our only. We can't afford to go
Yeah.
see anything or do anything, so we might as well just be in the city and just live life.
It was a beautiful time though.
A lot can happen in 3 months, guys.
A lot did happen, but I'm glad you weren't there, Raymond, because for sure shit would have escalated quick if you were with us, bro. It's
Oh
like
man.
you get the three legs together. It's like, what the hell? Come on, guys. But we knew that for a certain amount of time, we're going to go our separate ways. You know, you were going to pursue your law career, and that's going to take some time. And I know that's exactly what you did after you came back. Was law school everything that you thought it would be?
It was vastly different from what I could ever expect. And I think that simply comes from the fact that I wasn't from a family of persons who had reached higher levels of education, and so I had really no one to prepare me for what was coming, other than someone like Dan Stormer. But then again, Dan's experiences were also very similar to our own, since he came from a very, very poor family and sort of had to make his way and adapt and survive in that sort of atmosphere. And that's sort of what happened to me in law school. You know what I mean? It was very aggressive, I think is the word that I would use to describe it. You meet friends, right? But it's not like the type of situation that I had encountered before. Before, it's like you get a sense of people, you meet them, and you can become really good friends, and you might have a really high percentage of people that you carry on in your life, remaining your friends because just you're a good judgment of character, or something like that. I realized that in law school, my judgment of character remained the same, but people's ambitions were different in that sort of arena. And so while I was still meeting good people in law school, less than half of them I remained friends with, not because I they were two-faced or something like that, but because their ambitions and their drives were completely different in that stage of life. So I kept a handful of friends with me from law school because people were stepping on each other's backs. They were at each other's throats. Nobody wanted to help each other. Everyone wanted to be better than the next. And to me, that was a different experience. You know what I mean? Because that's not who I am. I held true to who I was, and I never resorted to any of that. If someone ever asked me for help in any way, I'd do it. If I could, I would do it. Whether it was with some kind of study outline or an explanation of something that the teacher was trying to explain to everybody. If I could help, I was going to do it. And my experience at law school was that, good or not, oftentimes a lot of people weren't like that. People could be trying to take advantage of you in different ways, even if they're not going to show it. And yeah, I mean, it was very, very both dark and light experience for me.
I can see he's having PTSD. I'm sorry I asked. Sorry, bro. I mean, but just rest assured, you're far from that now. Did you ever think, in lieu of all that, was there ever a time where you actually, found it hard to balance your personal life, your academic life, and then because of that, did you ever think this might not be for me?
Yeah, I thought all of those things, and also balancing my personal life was very difficult. Um, I really had none. I had no personal life
Yeah.
outside of law school. Law school ended up sort of becoming my entire world. And again, that world was in constant flux and chaos. Whether it was relationships with women or relationships with friends, they all kind of
Yeah.
had their roots in law school, and it was very difficult to sort of find a positive social, get my stride in that area of my life going, when I was constantly being brought back down to this vicious world of law school that I was in. So yeah, it made that part of my life very difficult. And I did at times question, am I doing the right thing? Is this what I want to do? Is this what I had in mind when I decided I was going to go to law school? And oftentimes the answer was no. This is not what I had in mind when I thought about going to law school. I thought, hey, I'm going to be able to apply the way that my mind thinks to something better, to something greater than I am, to a greater purpose. And then I get there and I'm surrounded by a bunch of cutthroat people that don't give a shit about one another, and I was appalled. But I found my way, and I basically just I did what I needed to do to learn what I needed to learn, and just get out of there.
Was there a person or an idea, or what was your biggest motivating factor that drove you all the way to the finish line?
I wanted to give myself a fair shot at deciding whether I had made the correct decision or chose the right path. And in order to do that, I needed to finish what I started. I wasn't going to let my experiences from law school, whether good or bad, make that decision for me, because I realized that, again, school is a whole different animal. It's a different beast. And these are all eventually going to be my colleagues in the real world, but are they going to have that same character when we're face to face, whether it's in an adversarial setting or not? And is it going to do the same type of damage that it did in school? And to me, the answer was, I don't know, but I'm going to find out.
Do you want to, can you give us a little rundown of what your experience was like, where you started, what you ended up doing, and then what you ended up eventually doing now?
Yeah. So there's a huge disconnect between law school and actually practicing law. And I don't think that there's a law school in the world that can adequately equip anyone for bridging that disconnect. It's just simply a distinction between, reading it in books and doing it in person. And there's a lot of different aspects to that. There's personality aspects to it, dedication, and all of these various things. But when I first came out of law school, and I was immediately picked up by a private defense firm in downtown LA, and they an excellent firm, by the way. The type of practice area I was in was police liability defense.
Sorry, let me cut you off. So you're defending cops. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everybody needs protection. I'm not taking anything away from it. I just wanted to get clarity for our audience.
Initially,
it wasn't a concern. I just wanted clarification.
After about my first year in that practice area, it became very clear to me that was not something that I could do long term, not in the slightest. Suffice it to say that I did not see a career in police liability defense in my future. So I gradually started getting my foot in the door with other practice groups, namely employment law, labor and employment law at the same firm, because this was a national firm that had a very, very large client base. So I ended up representing a bunch of cities across California with respect to employment lawsuits, labor and employment lawsuits. So I did that for from 2000 end of 2013 or so through about 2018. I practiced labor and employment law, and I was very happy with it, and I still am today. But at some point, I felt at that firm that I had reached my plateau. I had gotten all the experience that I needed out of it, and my time there was now just kind of grueling in the sense that I was working a lot of hours. I was very much, nose to the grinder, very huge caseload, and it was just no longer fun for me. I enjoyed the practice area. I didn't enjoy working at a big firm anymore, and so I made the transition to being in-house at arguably one of the best public universities in the country. And now specifically, I am part of the
Hmm.
labor and employment relations unit at UCLA, and I came full circle, having started at UCLA, this new chapter of my life, and now ending right back where I started, and it really feels like home to me. I couldn't be happier. I mean, I have an amazing team that I work with. Um, the work is excellent, and I feel like I'm with what I do specifically. I'm
Hmm.
very well equipped because of where I come from.
Was there ever a time, especially when you were doing all the other laws before UCLA, that you were like, you know what, maybe being a lawyer is not for me? Because, I know you wanted to see if you can get there, but was there ever times you were discouraged about, wow, maybe I'm just not cut out for this?
Yeah, I'll say that I definitely had situations where I wasn't sure again if I was pursuing the correct path for myself, and I believe that a lot of it is specific to working at a law firm that is full of partners, and because essentially the way it works is you have a firm, and the partners are really the ones
Hmm.
that have the client base, and you get your work from those partners giving you the work on behalf of their clients,
Hmm.
so it kind of trickles downwards. So really, if you're starting off as an attorney and you're an associate like I was when I was there, um, not only are you juggling various, like a substantial caseload and a bunch of different cases that you're trying to win, but you're juggling a bunch of different personalities. So you have, I mean, just to give you an example, there might have been 50 to 100 partners at the firm in downtown LA, and to the extent that I'm working for 10
Hmm.
of them and 10 of their clients, that's 10
Yeah.
bosses that I'm trying to please all at the same time, with 10 different personalities, 10 different lists of demands, 10 different nuances. You know what I mean? Like it can be very
Yeah.
taxing and draining. And again, going back to what I had mentioned before, I'm not much of a people person. And again, that's one thing that I never was able to really learn growing up, because for me it was just always fight or flight, and it was
Hmm.
fight. I'm gonna fight my way through it. I'm gonna fight my way through it. I'm gonna get there. I'm not gonna let anybody stop me. And so when I get to the situation where I have to sort of manage sometimes very fickle personalities, um, I was not as smooth as I could have been. I wasn't as good at that aspect of practicing law that I could have been, because frankly I
Yeah.
just didn't see why I had to. I just wanted to fucking win the case. Give me the work, give me the case. I'll do the rest. I don't care about your ego. You know what I mean? And so, for me, that was a big part of me
Yeah.
questioning: is this what I want to do?
You being a Hispanic man, coming from where you come from, uh, were there any hurdles you had to overcome that others may not have?
At least when I first started practicing, I can tell that I wasn't taken very seriously, um, and I was able to draw the correlation because I was able to draw the correlation that it's because I was a brown attorney, because I would have colleagues that were my age or younger with my experience or less that were taken significantly more seriously than me,
Yeah.
even though I was winning cases, even though I was kicking ass, even though I was putting in the exact same work that they were. Um, you know, I was still not a white male attorney. I had a couple of judges, um, you know, comment on how young I looked at one point. One comment on my beard, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
I had a partner. I had a partner at my firm, and again, I'm not going to mention the firm or who the partner was, um, but she took it a step further and commented that I should trim my beard, because I don't fit in with the rest of the people at the firm. And yeah, really, in a room
Wait,
full of white
wait,
people.
wait. She
Okay.
said that in front of
Um,
everyone.
yeah, it was during an event, a social event that was put on for us.
How? did it make you feel?
It pissed me the fuck off. And I had already had a couple of glasses of wine because it was a social event. And I'm sure that's also why she felt emboldened to say such a fucking stupid thing to a brown dude and a room full of white attorneys. Um, but I told her it's none of her fucking business how I choose to groom myself. And unless that there was a rule at the firm that she could point to telling me that I got to keep my shit trimmed,
Hmm.
I ain't trimming shit.
Wow.
This was a partner, by the way, and she was. I
So did you?
mean, they
Was
were
there
pissed.
retribution against you?
The good thing is there were also very good people at that firm, and most of them were in the practice group that I was in. Again, a lot of the female partners were very progressive, very I would say left leaning, good people, and I'm thankful that a couple of them were there in the room, so they were equally as appalled as I was, and they were supportive of my response. So when obviously when word got around firm wide and to all the bosses, instead of receiving an email from my boss saying that I'm fired, I received an apology, which to me was shocking. I wasn't
Wow,
expecting that.
I'm impressed.
I'm not surprised that it was your female colleagues were the ones that stepped in to have your back because, they're going through their own bullshit being in a male dominated industry. I'm sure they've been told to, wear shorter skirts and things like that. So I'm sure that it was easy for them to identify with you and have your back.
I completely agree.
What would you
Thank you,
say
guys.
to a Hispanic male or female kid that is dreaming of becoming a lawyer one day? What would you tell them right off the bat?
Don't do it for the money.
Hmm.
That would be my very first
Yeah,
piece of advice. And because if you're doing it for the money, and I know I know it sounds very very cookie cutter advice, but in this profession, it is very very important because I have taken pay cuts to be happy. Where I am now, and so I would say do it because you want to do it. If you're doing it for the money, you're gonna keep jumping from firm to firm, and you may not be happy. When I was making the most money in my career, and I had the coolest things that I always wanted to try and get just because I wanted to give it a shot. Cool ass condo, like all these different things, just because I wanted to try it once in my life, was also when I was the least happiest in my career. So I will say that anyone who's thinking about going to law school, anyone that wants to be an attorney, first decide why. Ask yourself the why. And I think once you establish that, and if it's for a good reason that has nothing to do with money, then apply yourself. Go for it.
And would you say anything to help them overcome certain racial things?
People as people of color, and if this advice is specific to someone that's a person of color, there will be extra hurdles, there will be extra barriers, there will be extra headwinds that are going against you the entire time that you're trying to apply yourself, the entire time that you're trying to achieve, the entire time that you're taking the same class as someone that's not a person of color, and they're getting different accolades from you, or they're getting different respect from you, or and that translates to higher compensation right out of college. Expect these things to happen because they're not going to go away anytime soon. But also, that is why you need to finish what you started, and that is why if you're applying yourself to be an attorney, use it as a tool to change this shit. Make it end. Get in a position of power and remind everybody that it doesn't matter if you're brown or if you're black. You could fuck shit up too.
You sound like Dan. That's all. But you sound a lot older than Dan. Dan's got youth on his side, apparently. That's sound piece of advice, man. I do hope that whoever hears this, if they even hear it, take it to heart, because I can tell you firsthand that's what I witnessed worked for our best friend right here, and it's been a long journey, but I feel like I think we got a pretty good grasp on your origin story at this point.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people don't realize, especially the last 10 years, what Ulysses Ucla had to go through to become, who he is now. And every day, every year, there's a different challenge. But it's good to see you where you're at, brother. Like, seriously, congrats, man.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Thank both of you.
Thank you for another Rush Hour talk session. And until next time, bro, we love you, man.
Love you,
Until
bro.
next time, love you guys too, man.
All right.
Peace.